Hey, the better rifle. Drop the gun! Oh, shit! I'm hit. I'm okay. But I'm not gonna die.
Gotta make more TikTok clips.
That's your job.
I know,
Yeah, you're the TikTok guy.
Yo job.
do your job. And somebody was shitting on one of Max telling that boot camp story. That got a lot of views and a lot of people, a lot of hate. And this guy was shitting on it about like, the best people I've ever known were Marines and and listen to some pug tell boot camp stories or whatever. He's like, does anyone even listen to this show? And I respond or watch the show, and I responded with, we have tens of viewers. We're kind of a big deal.
That's dope.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You ready?
All right. Yeah, we're recording right now.
All right, I'm going to start. Welcome to Badges, Bullets, and Blunders. I'm the host, Travis Harless. Before we get started, go check out if you'd like to support this podcast, go check out our friends
do it again. Come on now.
I thought you guys were professional.
Yeah, I did too. And now this is going to end on the fucking blooper reel. Here we go. All right, can I start now?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to Badges, Bullets, and Blunders. I'm the host, Travis Harless. Before we get started, if you'd like to support this podcast, go check out our friends at Slick Sleeves Syndicate. It's just a t-shirt company. Today's guest is a repeat guest, my good friend Ted King. Ted is a captain at a police agency in California. Ted, can you kind of recap? You've already talked about this before, but what did you do before you became an officer? How long you've been an officer, and what kind of the general trajectory of your career?
Yeah. I grew up more or less in Bakersfield. I went to local high school here and I went to the local junior college for a couple of years part-time, and then wasn't really getting anywhere with that. So I joined the Army, went to the military, and I was there for about 5 years and ended up coming back and got on with the police department in 2005, the very beginning of that. And,
did I ask you what you did in the Army last time? I mean, I don't know. But
I don't know. I was an intel guy. So my first unit, what intel guys did was go to the motor pool and work on vehicles. So got to change a lot of oil, a lot of PMCS. Nice. I was pretty good at making sure that there weren't any soft spots in the armor and blinker fluid and ID10T forms and all the good keys. Stuff. Yeah.
Got a box of grid squares.
Yeah.
Batteries
blinker
for the
fluid. Yep. I got to the bottom of all that and then changed stations, and I went over to England, and I was assigned to the Joint Analysis Center over there. So I did some targeting and
nice.
That was
intel stuff.
Yeah. So that was a lot better.
Squirrel stuff.
So
nice.
And then I got out, and here we are.
Became a police officer.
Yeah.
You've been 20 years?
20 years this last January. So
okay. 20, coming up on 22.
20 and some change.
Worked all over the place, right?
Yeah. Mainly operations and investigations. And then just recently, last 2 years, have been over in training. So it's my first administrative assignment. But up at this rank, everything's administrative. But it's interesting, seeing the other side of the house and the support side. I had never really done that. I was, generally aware of what they did, but as far as the inner workings of it, I didn't know. And you worked over there a little bit, so it's and you can attest it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was. So a little bit more to it than just lining up training and things like that.
Yeah, than just bringing cases of water out. And,
right.
Get the pop-ups.
Yeah, get training to do it.
Yeah,
they'll do it. They're not doing anything.
Move some desks. All right. So the now training captain.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and it's been good. It's like I said, it's a learning curve for sure. But I think that where we're going with the department, it's always growing. It's always kind of progressing. I don't know if we talked about it before, but if folks have heard me talk about it a lot, that officers now are the best I think that they've ever been. They're better than 20 years ago when I was an officer, right? I thought I was a good officer, but they're better now, and that's the way it should be. And hopefully in, the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, everybody's just better and better and better. I'd like to think that we're better as a command staff now than we've ever been. We've got more resources, more assets, more ability to collect information and assess information than ever before. So,
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool. It's I guess nerdy cool to to kind of work on that stuff.
Yeah, I see all that. It's kind of like your baby too. Like you grow up here. I mean, for me, I've been 18 and a half years and I'm 40. So basically half of my life, like almost all of my adult life, I've been working, doing this job and at this place. And you get attached to it in a way where it's like, you take pride in it and you want to see it do well. And so when things get better, it's like, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Try not to have that attitude of like, oh, back in my day, we used to be like this, and you have that instinct. But then I realized I'm like, no, these guys are a lot better than I was. Like,
No, they're a lot better. Everybody from officers are better, detectives are better, sergeants are better, lieutenants are better. It's and I wasn't a lieutenant that long ago. Or I was a lieutenant not that long ago, I guess is the way to say that. But they're just better. You know what I mean? Like, and it should be that way. It's just like a professional team. Like the more we move along and the more we progress, the better that we all become. And
yeah, I was a VCAT. I got into VCAT as a senior officer in 2017 when you were the sergeant in charge of the unit, and we were high speed and whatever. And
they're no better than they were.
Yeah.
Back then.
But then now just in this last year, got reassigned back out there as it's like I was out for 7 years or so, and then came back as the sergeant, and I see the way that these guys operate, and it's like head and shoulders above anything that we did. And I'm like, I am the slow one.
Yeah, that's how I felt with you guys.
I'm the one that's like the anchor, dragging along and slowing things down.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling very well.
I try to like just stay out of the way, and like I'll approve the overtime, I'll read the op plans, like that kind of stuff. But like, and then like I can be a slightly below average guy on an entry for you if you need someone to, you need me to post up and hold cover on that door for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a balance, right? Like it's sometimes you got to let the boys work, and sometimes you got to give them some guidance. You know what I mean? And guidance not necessarily to say do this or do that, but more of a hey, here's the boundaries. Go be great within that.
Left and right lateral limits.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, Nick had a good question about incentives for getting experience into or staying in patrol.
Incentivizing experience to stay in patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have kind of talked about similar topics, and I don't know if we agree or disagree. Maybe this is one of the things we sometimes disagree on. And my thought process on it is like, so we have our operations, our patrol division. So you when you graduate from the academy, you go to field training. When you finish field training, everyone starts in patrol in our department. We're not like a county sheriff's department, so we don't have a jail, we don't have transportation, we don't have all these other things to fill. It's like that's where you go when you're new, and then at some point you can get assigned to a specialized unit like traffic. You can go to the gang unit, the impact unit. What other specialized units are there?
There's community engagement.
There's
all sorts of stuff now.
Training division.
Probably the best of the special units.
Yeah. So there's options that you can get into specialized assignments, and then there's also collateral duties. Like you can get on the SWAT team, you can be on the strategic response team, the
gang unit.
Gang unit's not a collateral; that's a primary.
That's right.
So like UAS doing the defensive tactics, PT staff,
bomb.
Yeah, there's all sorts of collateral assignments you can also get. But it seems like all of the experience, so like once you get enough experience in patrol, the incentive is for most people to try to get into a specialized unit and get out of patrol. And there's sort of like a stigma that exists of like, oh, it's just patrol sometimes. And this isn't my stigma. I'm just saying it exists. Like I don't think that way. Or if you get removed from a specialized unit, like say you do something, you get in trouble, and you can be kicked out of your special assignment and get sent back to patrol. So it can be part of a punishment or a discipline. And the problem is like they say, and this is true, Brent Stratton, he'd come on a while back, and he had told me this not on the podcast, but in private conversation, he said that he likes to use the term soul. Yeah. That patrol is the soul of the department.
Yeah, you just spell it which way you
It just depends on how you spell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and both can be true. Like it's like, because it really is like the core. It's like the most important part, most important piece, and everything else the way I look at it, especially like in my assignment that I'm in now, everything else is like a support structure for the patrol officer. So like the officer who, when a 911 call comes out, it responds to the 911 call or to the report call or like the in progress things that are happening. Like that's the fundamental base.
Yeah. The stuff you think of when you call 911.
Yeah. Yeah. And then everything else is support for that position. And anyways, he says it's soul, like SOUL. It's the spirit of the department. It's the base or whatever. But also sometimes it's the SOLE. It's like the bottom of the shoe. It's the dumping ground, the place you go when you get punished, and it's hard to break out of that mold of like I don't say there's a negative connotation, but there is a bit of that kind of exists. And how do you kind of take that away and incentivize people going to patrol or staying in patrol or getting your experience back into patrol? And it's a difficult question. I guess I'll kick it over to you before I rant anymore.
Yeah, I was interested to see what you had to say on all the things we're going to talk about today. But I think that you've hit on a point that we don't have a good answer to right now. There's everything is kind of a result of our processes and our structure, and you've talked about some of the structure and the processes are that as people move up, right? Like you said, you jump in the pool and patrol. And then it's kind of how fast do you move from there? Do you get picked up for special assignment? Do you get promoted? Whatever. So, the fastest horses are always going to be at the front, right? They're the ones that kind of get picked up the quickest, and maybe it's just because they know somebody, or maybe it's because they had a disproportionate spotlight on them for a particular thing or whatever, right? But they get picked up. And so the people that are doing a pretty good job and are maybe not standing out quite as much just get ignored, right? Because they're not the...
I want to, sorry to interrupt you real quick, but when you say just because you know someone, and I want to be more specific on that, it's like, not just that like you're somebody's nephew. That I don't think of it that way. I think of it like the circles that you're running in. Like if you're on a shift where, say, your supervisor is like on the SWAT team, is a SWAT supervisor, and you do well in front of that person, it's not like I try as a SWAT supervisor to not allow that influence to like bleed in, but like you have your favorites, you have the people that like are your high performers, and you kind of like, I think that guy would be good, and it doesn't, I won't say it gives you an advantage, but it definitely doesn't hurt to like do a good job on a patrol shift for a SWAT supervisor, and then you go to take the SWAT test. Like you might have a slight sort of advantage because you've been seen and you got a reputation, and you in a way have kind of been vetted, as opposed to someone who's on another shift and they have no contact with, and then you show up for test day and like, this is the first time I've ever seen you, I'm making an evaluation. So
that's just reality. If you and I go to test for something and we're equal on paper, we're equal on our effort as far as the test goes, but we both work for Nick, and he's gotten to see you do things. He understands your work ethic, and maybe you understand mine as well, and maybe it's not as high as yours. Like that's not one of the rated criteria, but why wouldn't you go with you? Like that's the reality of it. So.
And so that's when I don't want to put words in your mouth. When you say like someone, like that's kind of what comes to mind for me. Not like a nepotism issue. Like
no. I didn't mean like that. I think that we can all remember times that's been a thing too. But I wouldn't say that that's a thing right now. I definitely think though that if you have a disproportionate audience with a particular person of influence, then it's not because it's not because the process is unfair. It's just because your exposure was unfair. It was unequal. And I don't know how to go about that. Go about fixing that. And I don't know that you should fix it. If you're trying to get on the SWAT team or SRT or something like that, and the supervisors really trust you and they really like the work that you're doing, like, all right, you got a good person. If there's, I don't know. I guess you could miss out on something. If somebody else has a particular skill set or something like that, you could miss out a little bit. But
and another example too is like the gang unit. Like you do a bunch of gang unit overtime. They see you work, they see you
trust
hustle,
you.
And then when you put in for the gang unit, you get 10 guys, and 3 of them are always humping OT, and, helping out, and versus the other 7 you've never seen before. Like who are you gonna pick? The person you know or the person you don't know? Are you gonna bet on.
And the argument that the gang unit guys would make is like, well, if you really wanted to be in the unit, then you would work the overtime with us. But there's certain shifts that overlap to where your regular duty hours are during the gang unit hours, so you can't like go work overtime.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, I guess, a level of unfairness.
Yeah.
But the OT argument right now is kind of moot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no OT for anyone right now.
Oh, budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Hopefully it comes back.
Yeah. Hopefully. I don't remember. We've seen it like this a couple times, but this is definitely the most direct the orders have been to, and not just inside the department. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah,
this
citywide.
is a citywide thing.
Yeah.
This is something that hit us as much of it was as much of a surprise to us, the command staff, as it was to everybody else. And all of a sudden it's all right. We got no money to do, training, out of state trainings, getting extra scrutiny, probably stuff that, arguably should be happening all along, just being more
Fiscally responsible.
diligent. Right. Yeah. And, and with the police department, I mean, we're half the city's budget as it is, so it's everybody else in the city when it comes time to start cutting funds looks at us and like, well, you guys got the biggest amount of funds, you guys have the most
piece of
amount to
cake.
cut. Right.
I want to give you a smaller piece this time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it described as though we're kind of like the favorite of the kids, when it comes to all the departments within the city, right? We get, as frustrating as it is sometimes when we don't get what we want inside the department, the rest of the city gets that all the time, right? The police department and then fires are very close second, gets pretty much whatever they want,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyways, I interrupted you about incentives to get, like, what are some things that you can do to get more experienced people
Ideas.
to go to patrol or go back to patrol or want to be in patrol? And I don't really know what the answer is.
Because right now we don't really have a system in place where someone who's either in investigations, and I'll use that one because I think that's probably like the biggest one. It's like someone in investigations really can't go back to patrol
Right.
Until
now
they promote.
until they promote to sergeant, and then they're a supervisor, but and then they take a supervisor's spot. But versus
The only way they go back to patrol is if they get themselves demoted.
exactly.
Demoted or promoted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's,
Up or down.
we kicked around an idea a number of years ago now about making an investigatory detail, right? Just like an assignment for detectives to be on patrol. So you would have your officers, you'd have your seniors, you'd have a detective, and then you'd have sergeants, right? There'd be fewer, on what we talked about years ago was fewer detectives, maybe one per shift or one per side of the town.
Yeah.
Somebody that can go out and help with when you get a 288 or you get a complex shooting scene or, whatever it is, right? And provide a little bit of that experience to the folks that have never worked up in investigations to kind of see what they do. And, hopefully it makes everybody better, right?
Yeah, it's kind of having like a permanent on-call detective.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. And it could positively affect the on-call situation too, with how many, and we keep an armada of people on call these days.
Yeah.
It used to be that there were, 4 people in a lab tech that were on call. And now I think we've got 73 people that are on call at any one I'm making that number up, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm on call. I mean, I don't get paid to be on call. I
Yeah.
just answer the phone when they call.
Well,
in
that's
the
where I
middle
was
of the
going to
night.
go is those 73 are the people that we pay to be on call. And then we have 137 that are that are just waiting on the other end of the line to get called.
The phone rings. And,
So, but yeah, I think that I think something like that would be cool. It gets a little more complicated when it comes to job description, where
job titles, pay, all that stuff.
Yeah, and all that stuff matters.
It'd be something that would be a desired position, do you think? Would it be like a forced assignment, or do you think you'd get people that are like, hey, I really want to do this?
So I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Because I can see it, like, say you work patrol for, or you work in operations for 10 years, you make that promotion to become a detective, and now you've got like a day shift schedule, and you have like a life again.
Right.
And then like, they're like, hey, would you like to go work midnights on the weekend to be the midnight detective? And you're like, no, I'm cool.
I mean, that's
I'm
part
good.
of the allure to going to detectives. One is that you're taking your experience that you've amassed, right? And now you're putting it to use in, a different area, but you get to have more of your free time. You're more in charge. You're more independent, I guess. You get to make your own arrests. And
It would have to be some sort of like pay incentive or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't know.
have to be.
I'm not the biggest proponent of pay incentives just because, don't get me wrong, there's always room for them. But I also think that, if you want something that's good for the team, that that ideally would be its own motivation to go do that thing. You know what I mean? So like, I doubt you made the SWAT team because you wanted that extra $60 a month. Or
64 actually.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it's gone up.
the 6'4" crew.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and are you still doing SRT?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and you get $64. Yeah.
hazard pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For being
So
specialized or
That's not per day. That's every 2 weeks, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what I mean. Like, you didn't do it for that, right? And
No.
and I don't think that if we had, say it's $500 and we get people that just want that, like, is that the best person you're going to get? You know what I mean? No, you want people that are going to do it because they want to do it. So for me, I don't know where that kind of that middle ground is. You know what I mean? But like I what is it? Very unpopularly explained to the FTO group that I don't believe that seniors should make 5% for being an FTO. You know, I don't think that just throwing money at a problem and trying to create motivation out of financial gain is the way to go. So
It's I had a different. It's kind of along that same vein. I was talking to John when you're sergeants offline, and I was talking about lieutenants, and I always criticize. I'm a sergeant, and I always criticize lieutenants. I think that's always how it works. You always criticize one rank up, one rank above. You know, you're probably always talking trash about the assistant chiefs.
just one of them. Just kidding, Brent.
But yeah, I always make these little digs or whatever and critiques about lieutenants just in general. And then I was at the range house talking the other day. And I'm like, I just by nature don't trust them. I just assume that they're bad decision makers.
No lieutenants.
Well, and I'm like, well, here's my reasoning. Half joking. It's like in order to become a lieutenant, you had to at one point have been a patrol sergeant. For some amount of time, you were a patrol sergeant, which is a really cool gig. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you had decided that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go do this other thing that is way less exciting and way less cool and kind of sucks. And I'm also going to not get paid as much as that guy.
I'm saying it's way less pay.
And I get paid less to do a job that's worse. And I'm like, I just don't trust your decision making.
Yeah, I know. We've recently had a problem with that, with people not testing. For different ranks, not just lieutenant.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not testing for detective, not testing for. I mean, people still test for sergeant, but not testing for lieutenant, not testing for captain.
Yeah, there's no individual incentive, and people.
That's 100% it. There's no individual incentive.
When you talked about for the team, and there's all that whole thing, and it's I get that, and I understand that motivation, but part of me is well, suppose hypothetically, if I take this lieutenant's test, I'm taking a large pay cut, less hours or whatever, but I'm not making as much. And it's okay, well, how does it translate into my life? And it's well, I just went to the beach for a couple of days, and with my family, we went to Laguna Beach, stayed at a nice hotel, had a nice time. And it's well, if I'm making, and again, I don't get the exact dollar amounts, but there's little things like that I'm not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
And I go kind of weigh and balance. It's is it, again, I want to be a good team player, and I'm not saying that I'm the guy for the position or whatever, but where the incentive exists. Hypothetically, if I was going to be the good guy to fill that position, that's going to be something that weighs into my decision making. Or I'm it's going to be, I'm not going to be able to do the off-duty work, non-work related things as many that I would if I stayed in this position.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I was the homicide sergeant, one of the homicide sergeants whenever I promoted from sergeant to lieutenant, and it cost me $70,000. Mm-hmm. So, and it's probably more than that now. I don't know exactly what everybody's making right now, but it was a lot. It was a lot of
that's a big hit.
It was a lot more ramen.
Yeah,
and I say that it's not like we make chump change. You know what I mean? I know that when we're talking about pay and all that, everybody always wants to make more, but for a job that you can get into with a high school diploma, we get paid pretty good.
Yeah, we get paid really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but more than I could make doing anything else.
Yeah, but I definitely think that so I look at it a little bit different. If you look to the people that are to your left and your right, your peers, right, that are all eligible for that promotion, and you feel like, one, you can do it better, but two, that they're not the ones to do it, that you would have a tough time taking guidance from them, then I think that it's kind of your responsibility to jump in there, because I've got very good friends that have decided not to test for different reasons, and I respect all their reasons, but I also think the team suffers for that. Like there's people that should be in my spot that, like one particular lieutenant right now that could probably be an assistant chief pretty easily, and and there's a couple of guys like that, but the one I'm thinking of, just a great dude. I've told him that I would love to work for him anytime, but he doesn't want to, and it's, I think that we are not as good as we could be because of decisions like that, and I wouldn't say that it's a selfish decision necessarily, but it's, I don't know. It's a tough one to watch,
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying there. And I think I've become as a sergeant, I've been a sergeant for 5.5 years. I used to tell people like one of my main roles is that like I'm a lieutenant manager. So like I have to figure out like I have a different lieutenant that's in charge at different times. And now I have like 3 lieutenants in charge. Interesting how that pyramid structure works. It kind of comes to a bottleneck where I am, and then I have to answer to it's like 3 lieutenants. But I used to joke, it's like, well, part of it is to like manage the lieutenant and different, like if you're on a patrol shift, different watch commanders have different styles.
Right.
And I always said that like, instead of complaining, I would tell this to like peer sergeants, and without obviously naming any names, like some of them would complain about whoever their watch commander was. And I always say like, obviously some are better than others, but I had the same relationship with every watch commander that I ever had. Like you were one of my watch commanders when I first started. Mm-hmm. And some of those are easier to manage than others, but like you just kind of figure out what their quirks are, what they're really like is important to them, and like make sure that you're checking those boxes, and like you're going to have enough kind of leeway to do what you need to do. Our friend Paul, when he was a sergeant, he used to complain about this one particular lieutenant who would call him every 20 minutes and to ask him what was going on. Yeah. And he was just getting annoyed. He's always like up my ass calling me. He's like, so you know what I did? I would call him every 15 minutes. So he would call me every 20. So I started calling him, and I would just like, not even on a call, just call him randomly, like not even doing anything, and just like tell him what I'm up to. Yeah. To where I became like the annoying one, like calling him all the time to like tell him stuff.
Yeah. To where when you meet people where they need to be, or where they need you to be as a leader, then it all works out. Yeah. If we keep expecting them to meet us where we want them to be, then it doesn't really work out.
Exactly.
So, it's interesting, having had the sergeant experience. I was a sergeant for about 5.5 years as well. And then moving to the lieutenant spot where I was not a lieutenant for very long. It's different. It's as a sergeant, you're talking directly to your people, right? So if there's, somebody that needs to do something better or did a really good job or whatever, you're getting direct point A to point B feedback. As a lieutenant, you're trying to push guidance down through sergeants who are trying to manage you. And get that message to be pushed down to the officers or the detectives or whatever, right? Yeah. And so it's not as I don't know. That was probably the toughest thing I thought, or the toughest part of the experience of being a lieutenant was just trying to get a message the way you intend it to land with the people that it needs to land with, because it needs to land with the sergeants a little bit, but it needs to pass through the sergeants and go to the folks, right? But the way that the structure is set up is for sergeants to be the heavy, and sergeants are out there doing the supervisorial work, so that they're going to calls and they're interacting with the people, and they're the ones that really develop that trust. But you got to have some buy-in as a sergeant with your lieutenant, understanding that they're speaking for the chief, they're speaking for the captain or whatever else. And I think that right now, I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit. I don't know this for a fact, but I would believe that all of our lieutenants are pretty open to feedback, some more than others. But I think that even some of the ones that in my mind would pop up as being a little more closed off, I think that right now they're pretty open, and so I think that there's opportunities there that
it's how you sell it.
Yeah, if it needs to get ironed out,
and give it to them. Sometimes you have to package it up in a way that it sounds like it's their idea. Sometimes you can just be direct. Like,
well, they're still people. So
yeah. Anyway, so we didn't even answer the original question still, which is like, how do we get more experience to go back to patrol? And one of the things that I was thinking is, so when I went to VCAT under you in 2017, I came out in summer 2018, and the guy that replaced me, John, he was in that position for over 7 years until I came back as the sergeant, and I was his sergeant for just a short time. And then he had like timed out or whatever. They said like, hey, it's like 7.5 years is long enough. You need to go somewhere else now.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to stay for as long as they let him. And then he was getting reassigned, and he was supposed to go back to patrol. And I remember, and he was kind of like, not exactly sure how he felt about that. But I told him like, well, you're not going to, you won't be there for very long.
Right.
And this is the thing that we kind of hit on a little bit earlier, is that like, and the reason I knew he wasn't going to be there very long is he's had developed and worked himself into becoming such a like desirable candidate for other assignments that he was going to get grabbed up as soon as he hit patrol. Because when you go back to patrol, you are now available for another specialized assignment. And there's all these other units that have a need and have vacancies that need to get filled, and they're going to be looking to try to pluck the best people they can out of the patrol pool. And I was like, you're not going to be there very long. And sure enough, he didn't even make it back. Like he was scheduled to go back, and before he even got back to patrol, he got plucked up and pulled into another specialized assignment. And I think that tends to happen. I tell this to guys all the time. It's like, once you get into you do well and you build a reputation, you're going to be desirable for a special assignment. If you get into that assignment and you do well, things tend to snowball.
Right.
To where it's like, now the next time another thing comes available, you have that reputation, you have that experience, and you have that training, and then like you'll get grabbed up for the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And people complain about that. They call it like, oh, the golden boy. Oh, I guess a golden boy. Yeah. And it's like, there's a bit of that like stigma that I guess can be true, but also like there's a bit of it that's like, well, a lot of time, not every time, but a lot of time it's like that person, did well, say day one from the academy, built a reputation there, got out in field training, did well in field training. People knew about them to where like they kind of were already eyeballing that guy like before the time came, and then went through the probationary period and got out, and then they're available. And he's already being kind of eyeballed by multiple different people looking, because these specialized units are always looking for good people. Yeah. Obviously.
If you care and you do the work, you're willing to do the work, and you're caring enough to make the team better, to make the assignment better, to go work your butt off and get the arrests or get the engagement or get whatever it is, whatever the mission focus is for your particular assignment, like you're going to do pretty good. Yeah. It's the people that are somewhat ambivalent or lazy, that tend to sink down and then they become disgruntled. And unfortunately, that's a very easy spot to find yourself. Yeah. And so you end up with a lot of folks.
And a hard spot to get out of, I think, too.
Yeah.
It's hard for once you sink into that to then
for a couple reasons
turn the ship around.
Yeah, you got to overcome everybody's perspective, but you also have to do the freaking work.
Yeah.
And so it's not, if that's not your habit, if that's not your style.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to overcome your own
habits.
Your habits is probably a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So.
And then that again, like, this is where the negative stigma comes from, but like that's where those people are going to kind of settle into those positions.
Well,
in the
and
operations.
the negative stigma is its own thing, right? Like if you get two people that are fairly equal and they can both do the job, but one's positive and one's negative all the time, like negative people aren't fun to hang out with. No. You know what I mean? Like no, it's that just brings everybody down. And as much as it is as fun as it is, or as good as it feels to commiserate sometimes, the reality is like that just weighs on all of us. It's just more shit on your plate that you got to sift through, but being able to stay upbeat, caring about what you're doing, caring about the people next to you, that's the way to keep it moving forward, at least.
Yeah. I had a guy ask me a couple of years back about testing for SWAT and getting on the SWAT team. And he just asked me real frankly, like direct, was like, hey, is it just like a good old boys club where you guys just pick the people you like? And I laughed. I was like, well, if you mean by good old boys club, like we pick people who work hard and have a positive attitude, then I mean, yeah. But if you want to be in the good old boys club, like, yeah, what you got to do is like go out and work hard and whatever that assignment is, try to be the best one at that assignment and have a good attitude when you come in, and like things will happen. Good things will happen for you if you do that. So in that sense, like, I guess, we are a good old boys club. Yeah. Because we pick the people that we like based on.
I always thought that was funny too. Cause I was, on the team for a little bit, and And I've heard that same thing. And it's like, man, you never know. You never know who's going to be standing at the end of the test day, right?
Yeah.
Like it could want this person or that person or whoever else, but then they shoot like shit. And it's like, and they're not bad shots. They just didn't do it on that day. And it's like, well, that guy's out. Who else are we looking at now?
Not bad shots. They just don't shoot good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of shooting
like,
real
I'm a
fast in the
bad
middle,
test
they shoot
taker.
real slow and in the periphery.
They're like, I'm a bad test taker. It's like, that part where we find out what you know.
Yeah. I'm just bad at performing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, that cold 80 gets a lot of people out.
It does.
Yeah.
A lot of good guys.
yeah. Well, with everybody watching, it's something that a lot of folks haven't had to do. And then once you do it for a while, then it's no big deal, because, you understand that nobody's perfect.
I've talked about it multiple times. Everybody watching, it's like, yeah, but wait till you actually get on, and it only gets worse. At least when you're testing, they're quiet.
Yeah, when you're testing, it's pretty supportive actually. Yeah. When you're on the team, it's there is no support.
There's no support.
But yeah, it's the way it should be.
Yeah. So no, I guess I don't know the answer. Again, for kind of went round and around, but like I don't know what the answer is because there isn't really an incentive to get back to patrol once you've kind of got into that that avenue, that lane, or that
Yeah, you're on the track.
when you're on the track. There, it's better.
So you're right. You're right. There's not the way that it's structured right now. There's not really a way. You can go to different assignments, and come back, but you can't change ranks and come back, right? With the exception of senior officer. But then you're not really leaving either. So I think, like I had mentioned briefly as we were prepping for this, we've talked a little bit. And we've talked with the association about it too, about combining those ranks of senior and detective. I realize that, and I want to caveat this: there is no plan to do this.
Yeah.
This isn't some backwoods plan that behind the curtain or anything like that.
Well, that's
We
the way
have
most
had
agencies, I think, are.
Yeah.
To where a detective is an assignment; it's not a rank.
Right.
So we're
And
different from that.
There is some very there's pros and cons to it, right? Like the cons are that it's not a forever assignment, right? So it's not going to be the cushy hours and things like that forever.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not performing, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the pros really outweigh it. And where I see the biggest impact and the biggest progression point is if you do that, you don't have to start that person on patrol, right? You promote, go put them in one of the investigatory details that is relatively lower end, or a property crimes thing or something like that. Not because it's not important, but because you learn how to be a detective there, right? You learn a new skill set, or a deepen your skill set. Make patrol up the rung a little bit. You know what I mean? So that if you want to be a senior back out on patrol, then you've already had to go do, work in burglary or work in general or whatever it is. And then you work your way back up to patrol. And then above that would still be, major crimes like homicide or SVU or something, but it's something where the folks that we're getting on patrol have had, now they've done their patrol time. They've gone and done some investigation time. Now they're back out on patrol as a leader and a subject matter expert. And after you promote from there, great. You've gotten your investigation box checked. You've gotten your leadership box checked, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to continue with investigations and you want to roll into homicide or SVU or something like that, great. You've gotten a little bit more context with patrol. You've seen how it is to actually lead people now, and maybe make some better decisions in your investigations.
That would be helpful.
I like that a lot. I think that there are some folks that, I say that it's been a while since I've been in investigations, but I think there are some folks that absolutely do not want to go back to patrol, right? That they would do anything to not go back to patrol, and they like being able to work their Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday or whatever it is, and do a mediocre job and just float, right? It's comfortable for them. Those people would not be staying in that. They would not like what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
Because you could push somebody out. You could push somebody back down to a lower investigatory detail, because you gotta perform, and I think that patrol and some of those higher end, not even higher end. I really hate saying it that way. It's not that they're less important. It's just that the complexities of a homicide
investigation are a little more complex than a garden gnome theft.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit. And so,
or a pumpkin vandalism.
Well, those get complex. So, as the world's foremost expert, they get a little complex and messy. But I think that that's a way to do it. I'm sure that there's other options as well, but I would like to see something like that where you're getting some direct patrol experience more closely timed to your promotion to sergeant as well, right? Because I do think that detectives are a very important rank to go be part of. I know you didn't get to do that, but and you've been successful anyway. But I think that
they backdoored me back into IA, so I kind of had to do something.
So you got to see something, but there's a learning curve. You know what I mean? And I would think that you would agree with me that there's a little bit of a learning curve when you make sergeant. And you haven't been part of this detail or that detail. Like I was never part of SVU, so I didn't understand the sex crimes beyond what I understood as a senior officer. And
I think so. The kind of what you're not proposing, but like hypothesizing about here is that's not the right word, but whatever. That there would be value in that. So like for those who don't understand our structure, you start as an officer, a slick sleeve officer, and then you can promote to senior, which is like a corporal, two-striper, and then you can promote from senior to detective and then from detective to sergeant. But you can also promote straight from officer, skip senior and become a detective. And you can also promote from senior and skip detective and become a sergeant. And that was the route that I went. And I took some heat. Rob was, when he first promoted to sergeant, and I'd been a sergeant for just a little bit longer, a couple months longer than him, I think. And he said to me, he's like, hey, don't you think it would have been better if you would have been a detective before you became a sergeant, a patrol sergeant? And I laughed and I said, yeah, I mean, there's like probably 20 other things I could have also done that would have been better for me. Like I never worked in traffic. Like if I show up on a crash, I have no fucking idea what I'm gonna do. I can't. I've done one DUI in 18 years. Yeah. Like there's all kinds of holes in my experience. Yeah. Like I would argue that like what's important for me is I don't have to know how to be a homicide detective to handle a homicide scene. I just have to know what basic information needs to be gathered, what things need to be like locked down and collected, and like how to manage a scene well enough to pass it to a homicide detective. And I said, don't you think it would have been valuable for you to be a senior before you became a patrol sergeant? Because I think that the job of a patrol senior officer is a lot closer and more similar to a patrol sergeant than a detective.
Yeah,
because the detective is like, you don't have to manage anybody except yourself and your queue. You might have some partners you work with and ask them to do things on cases or whatever, but like as a senior, you're a whole lot more closely aligned to what the sergeant is doing than you are. You're a detective, you're in a whole different universe.
Yeah, senior, your responsibilities include other people. Yeah. Whereas detective and officer, they don't. They include yourself.
Yeah. And he kind of laughed and he was like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I think that the difficulty is building a structure that supports all the boxes you want checked, right?
And that's why I said that your idea would be good, because you have a kind of a structure where you can promote out from being an officer, get some baseline investigative detective experience, and then at some point come back into the patrol division with both as like a senior kind of in that mid-level leadership role, but also with that experience, that investigative experience. Right. And it kind of blending the two, I think there's value for sure in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Let's do it.
I think that there
we'll make it happen.
Yeah. I think that there's some opportunities there too to set prerequisites before you can promote, to where it's not just time, and it's not just, this amount of, 60 units of college credit or whatever that like 60 units of what, right? If you get 60 units, you got 60 units, and it checks the box for testing, but
underwater basket weaving,
matter, right?
Some archery.
So setting some prerequisites though, like have you been an FTO? Have you been to the Academy Instructor Certification course? Have you been to this or that or whatever it is? Have you been to a Microsoft Excel class? And I'm just throwing those out there, a little tongue in cheek, but the point is, if you set some prerequisites, then you're controlling the product that you're going to get downstream, right? Or at least you're controlling it to the degree that you can. Whereas right now, like you said, we've got the ability for a senior who is very closely related, job-wise and responsibility-wise, to the role of a sergeant. They can go test and they can knock it out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But are they knocking it out to the exclusion of what's best for the team if they're not going over and doing some time in investigations? And conversely, does a detective, are they going to be good at running other people when they've never done it before? Mm-hmm. We don't know.
It's a steeper learning curve. I felt, and again, I wasn't a detective, so I can't say, but I feel like it's a steeper learning curve to go be a detective for 5 years where and then jump back in. You have no idea who any of these people are. Yeah. And you haven't been out there in all that time, and now you're not only back out there with people you don't know, but now you're in charge of them, and you're having to like supervise. And I think that creates some pitfalls for some people.
Yeah. And I think your personal experience matters as well, right? So you were a supervisor in the Marine Corps, right? I was a supervisor in the Army. So I had some of that when I went to detectives, and so, it's not like I'm not saying that I was unique in my path, but folks that have some experience from outside, organized sports, people who have played a lot of organized sports, especially at like a collegiate level or something, they tend to do really well when it comes to being in charge of other people and being responsible for other people. So, so there's some stuff that we don't necessarily provide at the within our organization that would still help people succeed in our organization. If that makes sense.
Experience.
Yeah.
It's funny. So like California, it hasn't passed yet, or it passed, but it's been stayed or whatever. It's that law that was mandating having a college degree to become a police officer. 89, right? And that's been held off, I believe.
It's been pushed off. I don't know exactly. I think last time we talked to Post, it was I want to say it was like 2028 or 2029 that it's supposed to be enacted, and there was some verbiage that my understanding is that both sides of the state legislature agreed to, that it was that it would have been a degree or experience coming in, like military experience, things like that. But I really don't think it's I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. The idea of it or the intent of it is that you get people that are more educated, have some time working on some critical thinking skills and things like that before we're entrusting them to go out and make split second decisions that could end in life or death situations.
Well, I wrote an article, and I did it on Substack, and I put it in the newspaper also. I think it's called VIORES 148. It's like a college course or whatever. Anyways, it's the way I thought about it is like I've been involved in like the training side and hiring and training people at the academy level, and been an FTO and seeing different experience levels and different people come through. And I think, like, say you had two candidates you're looking at just on paper, you don't see them and they're identical, and say a 23-year-old guy and one is just graduated from college and has a sociology degree or whatever from wherever, and one spent the last 5 years working in the oil fields, or do a construction job. And it's like, I don't know anything else about them, but like, physically, test scores, everything is identical, but just one went to college, one had like hard manual labor work experience. Like, I'm always going to lean towards the oil field guy more so than I am the college guy. And I never worked in the oil fields, and I did go to college later in life, but maybe so I have that bias or whatever. But I think that you develop that the life experience is a whole lot more valuable than especially for a patrol officer. Because like the tasks that you have to do aren't the administrative tasks, like the report writing and like the real brain activity things, like I'd say they're not difficult. I mean, they're not easy, but they're not like outside. You can learn them, and it's not completely outside of the realm of like possibility. Like, you don't have to be like a genius to like take a police report.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot of value that comes in that sort of like street smart, sort of like life experience realm that is more valuable for being like a patrol level officer than whatever the college experience is going to give you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that
it might change once you get to like an administrative management level.
It doesn't change
where those skills, the college level skills, will become more important for you as a captain than they are for like Nick as a patrol officer.
Yeah, I think a little differently on it. Most of my college experience, like you, I didn't have a degree when I started, and I've since worked through getting my degrees while I've been here, and so the theory of college makes a lot more sense when you've had time to apply some of that stuff. I think that everybody should go work before going to college, instead of just going straight through high school to college to master's program to whatever, right? To where it's all theory and no application, or relatively little application until the end. However, that agree. Said, everybody's got their different pathways. So I think though that the intent of that law isn't specifically that you have this piece of paper or that piece of paper. It's that you've had some more time to mature, for our brains to finish growing and developing, and to have some experience with critical thinking. That said, I would tend to agree with you that I like people that can solve common sense problems and think critically with what's on hand, as opposed to theorizing what would be best. You know what I mean? So, because sometimes you don't, as you both know, there's not a best all the time when it comes to police work and the application of all these things.
We have this canine handler. His first name is Paul, and he's a newer canine handler. And he was an oil field guy and didn't start the academy until he was in his early 30s. Mm-hmm. And Max, who's been on the podcast twice now, or just once. Sorry, Max. He would tell these stories about how good of a cop that this guy Paul is. And again, he oil fields, and then when he's in his early 30s, became a cop. And he just sees stuff that people don't recognize. Mm-hmm. It was he's we're out at 3:00 in the morning one time, and this an F-250 rig, a welding rig, comes driving by, and he's like, "That's stolen."
Yeah.
And Max is like, "Well, why do you think it's stolen?" He's like,
"Because the window of when that thing should be operating."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he's like, if I'm out at 2:00 in the morning, he's like, the reason I'm out is going to get a side piece or something. I'm not driving my rig to go get my side piece. He's like, the only reason you're gonna be driving that rig at 2:00 in the morning is because you just stole it from wherever. And he gave him this redneck oil field worker logic, and he's like, And then they went and they got and ran the plate and it was stolen. And, they stopped and got the GTA arrest. He's like, wow, how did you know that? And anyways, that's just an example of
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. And no college at all. There's definitely, if you talk to this guy, not a college kind of guy, not a college kind of cat, but super street smart. And that's those that sort of a different type of intelligence that I I'm fond of, and I appreciate when I see it in the wild. I'm like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the skills of being a police officer, I don't know that a college is going to teach that. I know that we tend to get folks that go through a criminal justice program, mm-hmm. right? Which nothing's wrong with that, but in general, you're going to learn that stuff.
Yeah,
we're going to teach you that stuff in the academy, and then through the on-the-job training and the ongoing AO schools and whatnot. I
always tell people when they're already officers, I'm going to go to college and major in something, and don't do criminal justice. Yeah. It's well, why? It's
there's no need.
It's that might help you get a job as an officer, which you're already there. So
you're already there.
Why don't you do something else?
Yeah, you're going to know how the penal code works.
Yeah.
I think though that definitely as you move up, my bachelor's degree is in business, and then my master's is in emergency management. Mm-hmm. As I've moved up, those things have been very relevant, not because they're skills, but because of just kind of some of the theories and the way that the relationship between, your strategic level, operational level, tactical level, or how you formulate a particular structure on things, that kind of stuff. It's helped, but there's not necessarily a skill, I think, that you have to go to college to learn to come do this. It definitely helps to be able to budget and the sexy part of police work, doing the budgeting and writing memos and things like that,
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually think, I don't know what college requirements we have at certain ranks. I think, like you said, it's 60 units for one of them or whatever. It's not very high. But I can see value in implementing that to where you have to have a degree to get to certain positions, to certain higher level positions within the department. And just being when I went to I went to college later in life. I think I was 30. I was in my 30s when I started, and I did much better, I think, than I would have. Than if I would have went to college at 18 as soon as I graduated high school.
Yeah,
I was in a different place. Obviously, sort of brain was fully developed. Different priorities,
but also you're able to make sense of it, right? You're able to add your own relevant context.
Yeah, and the life experience also, the work itself was not nearly as difficult for me when I was 30 than as it would have been when I was 18.
I was just gonna say, I bet you did pretty well in college.
Yeah,
right. Probably better than you did in high school.
Oh, a lot better. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah,
and because I think that as you grow, and you're able to, again, add that context of experience to the things that you're learning. Mm-hmm. It makes more sense, but two, it's a lot more logical, right? It's when we get people out of the academy that are all fired up and they're ready to go, and then we want to give them a community engagement class, right? They're already engaged, they're already completely bought in. But unless we go and show them what police work looks like, they're not really going to understand the value of that class, right?
Yeah.
So right now we're doing the Why'd You Stop Me or the CIT class, dealing with people with mental issues or whatever. If you've never seen it, it's all just book work. You know what I mean? It's like, I know what to do in this scenario because, you know, the book is saying this, but that scenario is,
it's just theory.
Yeah. It's just theory. And it's got an end point to it, right? You can make the wrong decision or you can make the right decision, and you either pass or fail the scenario. But in real life, like, there's not necessarily a perfect, you know what I mean? There's a lot of times it's not even a best. It's just we don't want to get to the worst scenario.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's really difficult to, memorialize or to structure in the sense of a college course, I think. So when you've had that experience and you know what it means to pick apart and take the least bad decision, I think that it just adds an invaluable amount of experience to your portfolio.
Yeah, and to explain why you made the decision. It's a big part of my job right now is decision making.
Yeah, I've started asking some of the folks in the academy and even in that class that we were talking about earlier, some of the instructors I was able to talk to ahead of time and say, hey, I would really like it if you could start putting people on the spot. Why did you do this? You know, not necessarily confrontational, but just explain yourself, right? Because sometimes people don't understand and they can't articulate why they did a thing. They did it because they thought that's what they should do, or they did it because they saw the person in front of them do it or whatever. But we really need to get past that, because you're really good at it, being able to articulate why you did a thing or why you didn't do a thing, and understanding that it's, you know, if I don't say that the perfect things, it's okay. You know, it's not the end of the world. We always want to get better. But there are some people that lock up so much when it comes to explaining themselves that it really makes them rely on kind of mantras that they've heard, you know, or I did it for officer safety. Like, what does that mean to you? You know, explain that a little bit more. Like, that's a cool thing that you're throwing out there, but it's not a get out of jail free card. You know what I mean? It's something that, like, explain it. Explain what made you more safe by taking that action, right? Or if it's things like no bad teams, only bad leaders, right? Like, sure, there's some bad teams out there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's up to a good leader to change the team and make everybody better. You know what I mean? So it's, like I said, the just relying on that mantra or the thing that's the cool thing to say is, you know, it's a starting point, but it's not the.
But it doesn't do you any good when the rubber hits the road, when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, because there's context and unique circumstances in all of these tactical environments that we find ourselves in.
I've taught at the sergeant school, I think twice. They're probably not going to ask me back this next time, but
I know a guy.
But I taught one of the different courses, a couple of different blocks or whatever. But one of the things I would tell them is, like, this is all either new sergeants or people that are about to become sergeants that are going to the course, where it's a 2-week-long course. And it's like, you're going to get paid a lot more than the people that you're supervising, and you're getting paid more than them, not because your work is more difficult. Like, their work is actually more difficult than your work.
Right. Like,
you're getting paid more for a number of reasons, but one of the big one is like, your job is to decide stuff, like big picture stuff for, like, you're kind of, everyone's speaking for the agency or acting on behalf of the agency or whatever, but like a lot more so you as the supervisor of that shift, you're making shift level, department level decisions. And so you have to, like, you're the reason you're getting paid more is because your job is to decide shit. So you have to be willing and able to make decisions. And that's the biggest thing, the biggest frustration I have with peer sergeants is like an inability to, like, fucking make a decision.
Yeah.
And like,
if you can't properly assess, I'd say it goes beyond decision. But you're right. As we make,
make the decision and be able to articulate and justify the reason why you made the decision, even if it's not a perfect decision. Like, you can go through your thought processes and explain why you're, like, what you saw and what you were, like, thinking at the time and all the different factors, and explain the decision that you made. And like you said, people that lock up, that not getting put on the spot or relying on mantras or whatever, like, they're not going to do well when it comes time to, like, be in charge of that scene and that situation and make the call of what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
Like,
they're running by their head and not by their heart.
And they're going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Or they're going to avoid it.
I'd say a successful supervisor can look at second, third, fourth order effects. You know what I mean? And as you get into management, that's even more important to see, like, well, if this, then that, you know, and there's a balance there. You don't want to get paralyzed by it, right?
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. But
That's
you
a
do
saying.
need.
That's a mantra.
Oh, absolutely.
Dang it. Mantras.
But it's one of those things that you got to be able to at least account for that stuff, because if you didn't think of what was going to come next and you just made a decision based off of, point A to point B, and you don't give a shit about C or D, like you're going to find yourself falling short quite a bit, you know what I mean? And you're not going to be a good supervisor because you keep running people into dead ends, So a good supervisor can think that stuff through and can squarely understands that they're not there for themselves. They're there for the team, right? It is their job to meet their people where their people need to be met, and bring them on, show them the way, right? To get them where you want them to be. So whether that's through training or that's through discussions or mentoring or coaching or discipline or whatever it is, right? That is the job of the supervisor. So, but yeah, I think that, if it's college or if it's, a specific leadership training or whatever it is that gets people to understand that, great. I don't know what's best there, but I know that there are some people that are pretty good at it and there's some people that are not. So
how do we get the knots to be a little bit better?
Mainly I think it's honestly, it's just caring, just caring about what we do and the people that we do it with. And if you're putting yourself first, then it's just not the job for you.
That's a big part of it. It was like in the Marine Corps, they said the purpose of Marine Corps leadership is mission accomplishment and troop welfare. And it's a mantra. Again, we're relying on mantras, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like that would just be like a thing that you would repeat, like in a test or whatever, or like if someone was asked you, and then it probably took years for me to kind of think through that. But when I think about, I kind of apply that same mantra to being a patrol supervisor or like a VCAT supervisor. And it's like my job is to make sure that the job gets done, and then to make sure that the people doing the job are taken care of, like just generally.
Yeah.
One doing the job before, after, and like that's kind of it.
Yeah. And has it. I know you're talking about the Marine Corps. I would submit to the group that it's the same with us, right?
Yes.
That the mission is so important that it goes beyond our own welfare, right? And I don't say that to sound stoic or anything like that, but that's legitimately the truth.
Yeah, and you talked about that a little bit last time of like your frustration with the saying of like the most important thing is that we go home at the end of the night.
I hate it.
Yeah, you hate that saying.
It's not the most important thing.
Yeah,
the most important thing is that we accomplish our mission.
Yeah,
and it's not fun to talk like that, and especially standing in front of people that you're saying, hey, this mission accomplishment is more than your individual welfare. It means more. It's more valuable. Whatever. It's not fun to say, but you find a lot of people that say the most important thing is you going home at the end of the night, and that's bullshit, and it puts our priorities out of scope.
Well, and I think there's a way I'm sure you explain it a little bit better when you give that statement, like provide a little bit more context.
I try. I don't know if it's any better or not. Don't get me wrong. Like obviously the people we wouldn't even be what we are without the people. I'm not trying to minimize that. It's priority one is mission accomplishment, and 1B is troop welfare, or officer welfare, personnel welfare.
But again, this is kind of a shorthand way. When you're saying it, you run the risk of sounding like, you're going to blow the whistle and everyone's going to go over the top and run into the MG, the German machine guns in a big line. Like that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
Like not at all, actually. And the context I gave, and I kind of gave this a little bit the last time you were here, was like, you think of like an active shooter at a school, and like what's more important than getting in there and stopping that? Like I would submit to the group that my life is less important than stopping that situation. Like, and if I have to die in order to shut this down, like then so be it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way for the people that I supervise. And that's kind of the extreme example, but they filter down from there also. So.
Yeah, no, I think that, I think you're right. I think that's just like I was saying with the mantras, it gives a starting point. And like one of our good friends, Danny, likes to use the Picasso quote, right? Like you got to know the rules like a professional so you can break them like an artist, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
You know what the thing to do is. You understand the pecking order. You understand the mission, all that. And if you kind of like we talked about on that other podcast, ultimately then once everybody understands that and everybody's got the skills to make the mission happen, then you just let the boys do the work, and it's something that we hope that everybody makes the best decisions and everybody comes out safe, but it's ultimately it can be a pretty dangerous job anyway. And I don't think that any of us get into this not thinking something bad could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Danny's a smart guy. But yeah, I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately. You really need to understand whatever field you're in. If you understand the baseline very well and you understand the basics very, very well and you train that really hard, then you open yourself up to be able to improv, to improvise and to like in the moment kind of like break the rules or kind of go outside of the normal guidelines because you understand those guidelines and those rules. Right. We talk about that on the SWAT side, you know, the baseline dynamic entries and learning that and learning the movements and the skills. And then from there, when you slow down and you're doing deliberate, you can improv while you're doing the slower deliberate clearances, as long as you really have a good understanding of the baseline.
Right. And it doesn't come across as reckless or being a cowboy or anything. It makes sense given the situation that you're presented with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that stuff is huge. That's one of the reasons that, I don't know if we talked about it last time or not, but I'm not a big fan of new officers going to leadership training. Right.
Yeah.
I know that's, counter to probably what all the cool people say, but like, I want you to go be real fucking good at what
hard
you
skills.
do. Yeah. Go be good at driving, go be good at shooting, go do demos. You know what I mean? Go out and meet the public, go do all that stuff because we're going to trust you to do some really dangerous stuff. And I want to make sure that you're good at it, and the fact that you understand how, to do the lieutenant's job, does that really matter when it comes to, a felony car stop or an entry on a house or whatever, or making a decision about, like that video we were watching earlier, do we push and make this entry and do this HRT, this hostage rescue, or do we pull and try to negotiate a little bit longer?
Yeah.
I want you to have some context for that, some expertise that's relevant.
So what do you think about, like different special assignments have different applications, I would say, at the patrol level. Mm-hmm. So like a common path is that when an officer is on for, say, 2 or 3 years, they do well in patrol, they become a gang unit officer. They work in the gang unit for 2 or 3 years, and then they get promoted and they become a senior officer. They come back to patrol, and all of those skills they developed when they were in the gang unit really apply well, or can apply well, to a lot of the patrol scenarios that they'll run into. Yeah. They know how to write search warrants. They know how to work like more complex investigations. They're excellent at managing shooting scenes. Like the high risk.
Are better.
Yeah, their tactics are better. Like the high risk, dangerous stuff. They tend to do better at than people who don't have that experience.
Right.
But then there's other assignments that have value, but not necessarily as much value at that position, at the patrol level position. So like if you get into the training division early on, and then you work in training for a couple of years and you promote and become a senior officer, and then you go back to the patrol division, and an argument, and I'm not necessarily making this argument, just kind of steel manning the case, is that like, well, you don't have very much patrol experience. You might have been really good at like, getting the pop-up tents and the water bottles. Sorry, I'm just joking. But I mean, like you might have developed and become talented in those skills on that side, but that's not going to translate over to like, like I said, a shooting scene or something like scary. It'll translate over to some of the work that's being done, but like to the stuff that gets a lot of attention and that has a potential to be a high liability like activity or thing, you're not going to necessarily. And I'm not picking on training. You could say the same thing about if you become a traffic officer and you ride a motor for a couple of years, and you're just parked somewhere writing tickets over and over and over again, and now you don't go to any shootings. You don't deal with any of that. And you can promote, and same thing can happen. There's a number of different things that pass it where. I guess this is a common complaint, so I don't even know what the question at the end of it is. But like, you can get into a specialized assignment where you learn skills, like you're saying. You're talking about not sending new people to leadership courses, where you learn skills that don't necessarily translate over to be that valuable as a patrol officer. Then come back and be in a position to where now you're kind of the leader and you're supervising patrol officers. And so. Don't have a question at the end of that, but I wanted to kick it over to you to see what your thoughts were.
See if I can come up with a question. I think that that's, I don't want to say it's a problem, but I do think that it's a reality that we're faced with. Like if like we've got some officers, they're not new officers anymore, that are senior officers now within the training division, and they're awesome. They're great. You know what I mean? They really do some good work. I know that they have talked to me about finding times to get out on patrol, you know, in their own capacity, not to go out and do tactical stuff necessarily, but to get out there and, for example, evaluate an FTO, right? Evaluate an FTO and how they work with their trainee on a particular call.
Yeah.
I think that things like that and finding those opportunities to stay relevant within the operational side of the house is huge. To think that you can be removed from it, from the operational side, and then jump in like you're going to catch up and, you know, or like you haven't missed a beat or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think is kind of short-sighted, you know. But I also think that you can overcome some of that with by being humble, you know, and understanding that, you know, there's going to be people that are better at things than you, even if you're in charge, you know.
Yeah.
And, so
So the attitude.
So
the attitude that they bring with them.
the attitude and your dedication to caring and being good, right? If you are removed from operations for X amount of time and now you're reintroduced and your skills aren't up to par, like if you care enough and you want to be good at what you're doing and you want to be a leader in that role, then there's some time to be humble. But that time that you're humble is while you're getting your butt in gear and you're getting your skills back up to speed, hopefully leading the pack with those skills, and you're the leader that everybody's counting on you to be.
Well, and I would say when it comes to humility, I think that applies across the board, whether or not you come from an administrative role and then jumping back into patrol, or you say you were doing the most high speed, like, you know, active, high liability activity, and then coming back, you should still have that same approach and that same attitude, like regardless. But that's a good point. I mean, if you approach it like saying like, hey, I'm not the expert in this, and, you know, say you're a senior, you come from the training division, and you go back to patrol, and you can kind of lean on some of your more experienced officers to be like, hey, I've been out of the loop for a little while. I'm not the best at this. Can you assist me with this, and ask a question and give that person an opportunity to kind of like lead up, and an opportunity to like, you know, make that connection, that human to human connection, to where you're not like walking in like, I'm the big boss now,
right.
You know, you're going to respect my authority.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it's tough too, right? Like, and you've changed ranks, you know that when you show up and it's your first day being the guy that's in charge, like it's a little intimidating, you know, and making sure that, or for me anyway, telling myself like, well, I know I've earned my spot to be here, but I still, you know, this is still day one. I've never done it, you know, in this capacity, and standing up in front of a briefing and running a shift. I think you're 100% right. If you don't have that level of humility to come in and acquaint yourself with everybody and make sure that your skills are good and that you're, you know, interacting with people, you know, like you're going to be behind the curve for sure. But I think that, I don't know. I would hope that everybody kind of has that personality, but I think that it's very easy for people to overcompensate for their lack of skill.
That's the problem that you can run into.
It's hard to let that go, right? Like we talk about keeping your ego at the door and all that crap. That's important, you know. I'll talk about the SWAT team. I would imagine it's very similar on SRT, but I know that you get picked apart so much that, like, if you want to bring your ego in, great, but it's just going to get beat up.
It's not going to do well.
Like you're going to.
It's not going to survive.
At the end. So you get to the point where it's you're comfortable being wrong. You know, like you don't want to be wrong, but you're comfortable being wrong, and you understand that everybody, with that experience, it creates that humility, and also that confidence, which I guess is kind of counterbalanced, but you can go into a situation saying, I don't know, but I know I'm going to figure it out. And I know I've got the best, you know, I care about the people. I care about the mission. We're going to be able to do the best thing here.
Something I still say, again, 5.5 years later, I say all the time, and it's a little different now because I'm in VCAT, and like I'm again working with guys where I'm definitely the slow one, you know, so it's a little different. But like I'll say, hey guys, this is the way I'm seeing it. I think that we should do X, Y, and Z based on these the circumstances, and then I'll turn like, does anybody see it differently? Like, am I fucked up here? Like if I'm stupid, like please tell me that I'm dumb if I've got this fucked up. You know, and occasionally I'm like, oh, well, what about this? I'm like, it's a great idea. Thank you for not letting me fall on my face. Right. I appreciate that, you know. And you can apply that same sort of mentality at the patrol level, and it's a little different because there's a greater degree of separation, I would say, where, you know, you come in as a sergeant, you're gonna have people that are like literally in field training that you're supervising, and so you're not going to like ask the guy who's in like week 2 of field training, like, hey, what do you think about this? You know, but you can lean on some of your more senior people and be like, hey, this is the way I'm thinking it. You know, like what do you think about that? And that again kind of develops that human to human connection. It shows humility, and And like, just from a practical standpoint, like there's a good chance that they're going to like have an angle on that or some experience that you don't have that's going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
And if you try to approach it like I'm the fucking man, you're going to do what I say. Like you're going to look like an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, even asking the new person on FTO, I think that it's interesting. You know what I mean? I've been an FTO before and had trainees and, I don't want to talk about how well or not well they did because I don't think any of them are cops anymore.
Yeah, you got a bad record.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it. But the point is that if you put the ball in somebody else's hands, right, and you're willing to take whatever they're going to do with it, like you might learn something. You know, it might be a new way of doing things, or worst case scenario, you have to explain to them why you do it a different way, right? And if you're able to explain it, then it's probably a decent way of doing it. You know, if you're unable to explain it or the explanation is because I said so, then you might need to rethink that, you know, or think through it a little bit yourself.
I like that. Humility is the answer then. So
it's the answer to a lot, for sure.
It's the answer to a lot.
So
nice.
Anyway, do we accomplish anything? Any questions? Anything Nick, from the audience this time?
Questions from the audience?
You know what? I wanted to bring up this thing I've been thinking about this whole time is that one of the things, and this is an idea based on like the first question that I asked, and you had mentioned that
we didn't answer, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And we won't. But
Hour 15. Yeah, we talked circles around it.
This is an idea, and it's full, and it has holes in it. However, I know that there have been mentions. No one's trying to work towards this as of right now. However, if there was at any point the rank structure of senior and detective to be including like their pay scales to be equal, because obviously I think that's like the main incentive is like the reason why someone might not want to go from detective to seniors because there's a pay decrease. So if that becomes equal and the pay scales are the same because they're very, I want to say like along the same line in terms of like the rank structure.
If it merges to one rank.
Yeah, if it just becomes like you're a
two-striper, you're assigned to patrol, or a two-striper assigned to investigations,
exactly.
kind of a thing.
And if that's equal that way, I think there would be more of a ability to move laterally.
Yeah, I agree. The way that we had talked about it, again, just throwing ideas out there when we were brainstorming about it,
and for people who want to.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I think I said it earlier, but when we were brainstorming about it, it was a couple supervisors. It was when I was a patrol captain and MBPOA. So it's not. This was not a command staff thing. It's it's not a. There's not a plan for this.
This isn't happening, guys.
People sitting around talking.
Yeah.
But I do think that it would solve a lot of problems, and I think that in order to make it happen, to address what you're talking about, you would almost have to have like anybody who's currently a senior or currently a detective would have to elect to take a test or whatever and say, hey, not like a.
I don't even know if it needs to be a test though, because
let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
Just settle down, Travis. No,
I'm going to interrupt you now.
I don't mean. I'm sorry. I don't mean like a test where there's a ranked list at the end. I mean something that just shows that you've got competency to do it. You know what I mean? So it would almost be like if you're this rank or you're that rank and you want to be this next rank, take this test, pass it. There's no like the only thing that we're stuck as far as the numbers would be the total number of that new rank that we're allotted, right? Because we would not be able to just change, or at least there would be a lot of uphill battle to just change a job description and say like, hey, Detective Nick, if we're going to this new thing and now you're subject to all this, and you're like, well, I wanted to be a detective.
Yeah,
I didn't sign up for that one, right? So in order to build that up, we would have to leave room for a detective to stay a detective. We'd have to leave room for seniors to stay seniors, and then by attrition, we would go to this new thing. You know what I mean? But the short term first step would be if you're senior, Travis, and you're Detective Nick, and you both want to be this new position, whatever we call it, there would be a check the box test that says that you meet the prerequisites.
Oh,
and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and you can. I think if that was done, and obviously you get people who want to move, because I feel like that would be the way to do it. If you don't make someone do something, then it becomes.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be fair for people that don't intend to do that.
They probably wouldn't do good work, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. So. Now that is one thing that mission accomplishment is always primary, right? But you can't make people accomplish the mission without treating them well, right, and treating them fairly. So
Yeah.
I used to get some criticisms about like, oh, you're too nice, or like, I don't know if it says directly to me, but like basically like that I care too much about like how like people
being
think.
one of the guys.
Yeah, that sort of criticism, like, oh, how people think about me or whatever. And I'm like not really. I care about like getting the job done, accomplishing the mission. And I can tell you from being on the other end of that, being, a person doing the job, being supervised, that I'm going to work harder for the supervisor if I have a good relationship with them. And I've had relationships where, and I've seen this with other people, where you have a contentious relationship with the person that's supervising you. And like people that are in that position where they really hate their supervisor will sometimes go out of their way to do things to make it more difficult for the supervisor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I just want to get the job done. And if they happen to like, if they like me personally, then they're going to work harder and do a better job at the job I'm asking them to do than if they really don't like me.
Yeah.
If they don't like me, then like, they're going to sabotage. They're going to, at the very least, just be lazy. And
Yeah. You can only compel people. I shouldn't even say that. You can only force people to meet a bare minimum standard, right? Like that's what you can compel them to do through the structure of just having a job, in the hierarchy that we have. To do a good job, people have to trust that you've got their best interests at heart.
Yeah, you have to establish a relationship, and you have to show that you care. And then once that happens, then they're not only willing to, but I'd say eager to like do a good job. Because like you think if like you and I are friends, and if you ask me to like help you move, like I'm like fuck, and just like dinging your furniture up,
like,
like,
I have helped you move.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna like, well, you're my friend, and I want to make sure that this gets done right, and I'm gonna make sure that I do a good job at it. Like, and that's just not even like from supervisor to subordinate relationship, but like someone that you have a relationship with that you care about and that cares about you. You're gonna make sure that like that job is done well.
Yeah,
and so there's
absolutely.
value in like just establishing a good relationship.
Yeah, and the flip side of that value is that a good supervisor understands that, but two, pushes people enough to know that like you gotta perform. You know what I mean? It's not enough to just be liked.
Yeah.
And that's tough too, because I think that again, my own experience. When I first promoted to a supervisor, of course I wanted to be liked. You know what I mean? I wanted to be respected for who I was and what, how I thought about things and all that. I was never the, hey, do it this way type of guy. Mm-hmm. Now I've been in leadership positions since, the last 10 years. And I can tell you that having to always deal with the problems, it's gotten to a point where I'm like, I don't have any more patience for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, get this fucking job done. Yeah. Or else you won't work here anymore. Yeah. And I know I went around to the briefings a couple of years ago and was pretty straightforward with everybody about that. But it's and I don't like doing that. It's one of those things that it for me and probably most of the people, yourself included, to be that way is stressful, right? Mm-hmm. It's not fun. It's not rewarding or anything like that. But at the end of the day, if we're not accomplishing what we're tasked to accomplish, then what are we doing? Like we're not here just to hang out. We're here to do the job that we got to do and meet the responsibilities that we have. Right? I think we talked about
it can't all be carrots. There's got to be some sticks.
Well, if everybody cares equally, there doesn't have to be sticks. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the fact is, not everybody cares equally. No, and people will.
Just got to show them the stick every now and then.
Yeah.
Like it's still here. You don't have to get it. Yeah, it's still here.
Send them a stick pic every once in a while.
A stick pic, exactly.
Yeah, just to let them know.
Softly carry a big stick.
Yeah. No, but if everybody was bought in at the same level, like it wouldn't even come to that. You know what I mean? Which is one of the cool things about like a unit like VCAT. You probably don't have to discipline too many people, right? No. Same with homicide or SWAT. There's not like a lot of disciplining because everybody's bought in and wants to be there. If we could get that level of buy-in at all the different ranks and all the different assignments, like it'd be crazy what we could do. You know what I mean? We already accomplished more than we should be expected to by everybody wearing the multiple hats that they wear. But you get people to buy in to that level and treat people well, treat people fair. I think it just would open up a lot of doors.
I like it.
So,
all right. Nick, do you have any more questions for the captain?
No, I'm good.
I feel like there's a question.
Yeah, I feel like there's one in there. Oh yeah,
There might be.
we can ask him off
Next
air.
All right, you got anything? I don't care. Anything at all.
Next time.
Next time.
Next time
right.
it is. Got to go watch hockey.
Yep. Ted, thank you for coming out and talking to us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me again, guys.
Thank you everyone for listening, and stay frosty.